Welcome on into the Free Refills podcast, where we come together as youth leaders to discuss the realities of leading in youth ministry. We hope you leave refreshed, refueled, and re-energized to carry out your ministry. Now, I know what you're thinking. You came in to hear the sultry voice of Wayne Morgan. He is not here, so you're stuck with me trying to do the grown-up role on the podcast. And as we all know, that's not really my strength. So it's going to be extra clown hour today. But we also brought in Travis Deans to maybe keep us on
I'm
track.
not sure that's much helpful.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, people have stopped listening already, I'm pretty sure. So, it's fine. But Travis Deans, welcome to the show. How you feeling about this?
I'm excited, man. I'm very excited. Yeah. Thank you for the invitation to be part of it.
Absolutely. The good news is we still have two Pennsylvania boys on this. That's kind of the minimum we want to keep on this. So we know how
That's
it is.
right.
Today we had an amazing interview with Barry St. Clair, and I gotta tell you, I have heard the tale, I have heard the legend of Barry, and now that I have spoken to him, I was like, wow, everything they say is true. This is a remarkable man. He's done some good things for youth ministry.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's for
And in,
sure.
and in fact, Travis, when we were talking about potentially interviewing him, you were like a little giddy. You were like, "Oh my word, yes, this is great!" Like you tried to get in on the interview, and we were like, I just the timing didn't work out. But why do you care so much about Barry St. Clair?
I mean, it's kind of like interviewing Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's, you know what I mean? It's that kind of, it's that level of awesomeness, I mean, so, yeah. um, when I was a student in college, one of Barry's books was one of our textbooks for class. And so I had to read and write a paper on it, all that stuff. And the book was it was basically about how youth pastors can and should have an impact on the public school campus. And that book, I understand, is being or been rewritten, updated for re-release. Um, but it really changed the way that I thought about youth ministry because you think youth ministry, you think of it in the church, which is important and necessary, and obviously a key part of it, right? But Barry's book was just kind of eye opening in that as a youth pastor, you should think of yourself not only as the youth pastor of your church, but a youth pastor to your community
Hmm.
and to the nearby schools that your students attend. And so it was a powerful book that honestly has impacted my ministry the last 26 years. So it was a great read, and so I'm excited for this interview with him.
Love it. And yeah, it's amazing to see the impact that leadership, how far it goes, because I mean, you created 9-month mission trip as a way to resource people to get their teens to see their school as their mission field.
Right?
So
Yeah.
it to hear a little bit of how young Travis was influenced by this man's work,
That's right.
you just never know how far the ripple will go and how God will use it. And I like that this episode is kind of a coming together in some sorts of someone who's paved the way in youth ministry and still doing it. He's still
Yeah.
very involved.
Yep.
But then also how it's impacted your ministry, and your ministry is still humming along, still doing great. So this is kind of a little small tier of discipleship. Maybe I'm overblowing it a little bit, but this is how it works. We
Yep.
are impacted by the things of God. We share it with others who are then carrying it out. So love it. And we're about to just jump into the people listening here, and you're going to learn a bit more about Barry's story and what he's up to. Is there anything last words, Travis? Is there anything you want the listener to know going into this?
Just that it's gonna be really practical. He's got something awesome and very easy to do to offer to us. And I think you're gonna come out of this with a great tool and resource. So I'm excited about that.
Love it. Love it. Thank you very much. Without further ado, Barry St. Clair, Well, welcome in, everyone. It is my privilege to be interviewing Barry St. Clair of East-West Ministries, alongside of Kevin Miles, who is with NNYM, but is also with Jesus Focused Youth Ministries. So the three of us are going to have a conversation about prayer. Now, Barry, I did a little reading up on you, and I see you've been in youth ministry for 45 years. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And it's been wonderful and no complaints, right?
Yeah. I've tell people I've got one song to sing, one string to play, and that's youth ministry and Jesus Focused Youth Ministry as the central part of that.
Love it. Absolutely. And 45 years is about the average stay of a youth pastor in one church, right, Kevin? That sounds right.
Pretty close, right?
Pretty close.
Man, it's incredible. It's unheard of, but that's
Yeah.
It's awesome to have that same vision for that number of years.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And your impact has been in the US and 30 countries globally through your time at Reach Out Youth Solutions. And now you get to branch out and continue after handing that off. You get to continue with East West and continue down Jesus Focused Youth Ministry. But
Yeah.
fun fact, I don't know if everyone knows this, but you helped start the National Network of Youth Ministries.
Yes. Paul Fleischman and a guy named Roger Randall and I met in a hotel room in Dallas and started talking about the idea, and one thing led to another. And then what happened those early years was there was no National Network of Youth Ministry. It was just a group of guys meeting in Colorado. We'd come together, we would talk, get in the hot tub, go skiing, and pray and talk about Jesus and youth ministry and how we could make a difference there. But it was just an informal gathering. That was about probably 5 or 6 years that we did that before we ever did anything that had remotely to do with the organization or putting anything together for that would be a 501c3 nonprofit national youth ministry. So that's where it started.
Man, so the ministry started in the hot tub. That's my takeaway, right?
Yeah, or the ski slope. You get to pick.
There you go. And we're talking late 70s, early 80s. Am I right?
Yeah, right in there. Yes.
Yeah.
The 80s.
And it's still humming along. We're still, hey, it's still a ministry that I get to be a part of. So in some way I can say thank you for making this take off the ground and giving me a job, however many years later. Think about that.
We knew so little about what we're doing. It's hard to take thanks for that. We were just galumphing along and enjoying ourselves, and the relationships that were built are still, Paul Fleischman and I are still really, really close. Doug Clark's a close friend, and, just all kinds of people that the Lord's put around my life that have enriched me and caused me to kind of keep carrying on over the years. So I'm really grateful. That was just a special time for all of us.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing. And Kevin and Barry, you both have been very involved with See You at the Pole, maybe way back towards the beginning years even. Kevin, I've never even asked you this, so this is just putting you on the spot.
Very good. There you go.
You've heard of it before, right? Like
I have heard of See You at the Pole. Right. Yeah.
Okay, good. What was your earliest experience with See You at the Pole?
Oh, wow. It goes back to high school. So I was actually at a camp called Super Summer Arkansas when it launched in the state of Arkansas. And at the end of the closing service on Friday, we actually went out in the parking lot and they said, we want to tell you about See You at the Pole, and we're going to demonstrate that together before we leave today. So you can go back to your school this fall and do it in September. So we actually did a mock See at the Pole kind of in the parking lot of the camp, and then it took off from there. So I was involved. I think that was my I don't know what, I was a junior high student maybe at that time, and then it was actually after a couple of years after that in '93 is when I surrendered to the ministry. So had a big impact in my life, and I did it there at the same camp too. So Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's so brilliant to give you a taste of it. I mean, we look at it and we're like, well, you just gather around a pole. But like
Right.
for a kid, taking away those unknown variables, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Barry, what's been your experience with See You at the Pole? I know we got two Texas guys here, so you know that is the birthplace of it.
Yeah, it was the birthplace, and it really kind of maybe started before that, in the sense that out of what I said earlier about us all, kind of gathering at these things in Colorado and the relationships, and then we started meeting together, and somebody had the idea of See You at the Pole. That would be Rick Eubanks, who is still our really close friend. Rick Eubanks, who initiated that, and then Billy Beecham, who stepped into it, and all of us were. The beauty of this is that all of us were really close friends, and so it wasn't like we were going to kind of create something that was going to do what it's done today. We were just kind of saying, okay, man, this is amazing. They started in Texas, and kind of things sort of spread through that whole network of the network, and beautiful how the Lord orchestrated that early on.
I love it. Yep, and it's still going today. In fact, I read somewhere that involvement in it has actually increased like 30% or something this year. So we're seeing just more people continuing that charge and continuing to jump in on it, and to really rally students to stand up for their faith, to pray for their schools, to make it a priority. And one of the natural questions from See You at the Pole is, how does this move from a one-day event to something that really makes a difference, that has a bearing on our every week? And Kevin and I were discussing this very topic before about prayer, and it basically was like, we got to talk to Barry about this, because the concept of prayer triplets. Now, I want you to latch on to that phrase, gentle listener, okay? Prayer triplets is a method that you can incorporate in your group, parachurch or youth group, church without a group, whatever it is. This is something that could really keep that fire going and keep evangelism and prayer moving forward. So, Barry, I would ask you, what is a prayer triplet?
Well, before I even get to that, let's go back to See You at the Pole. See You at the Pole is a visible event. A one time, a lot of people. When you come to prayer triplets, you've moved now to an almost invisible opportunity that is ongoing. And so a prayer triplet is 3 Christians meeting 3 times a week to pray for 3 friends who need to know Jesus. Simple as that. Now, that's not my brilliant idea. I am just bringing that to the forefront out of what Jesus said to do in Matthew 18, 19, and 20, for 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there I am in the midst of them. And that passage there is probably, I would say, one of the least used weapons and tools that the Lord has given us in the Western church, that is just hidden and you just rarely see it. So in terms of just this small prayer triplets kind of idea of people praying for non-Christians on a consistent basis. And so my hope is just so through this whole idea of prayer triplets and See You at the Pole, an awesome way to pray that we'll talk about, is that we'll begin to get back to that, because really in the history of spiritual awakenings in the church, it always starts with small group prayer.
Always.
It always starts through small group prayer. And I go to things even like this Auburn Unite thing that just happened a few weeks ago. Where did that happen? Where did that start? Somebody had a big idea for an event. Nope. 3 girls in a dorm room started praying, and that was the outcome of that over in due time. So that's the idea of prayer triplets.
Can you spell out, while you're on that topic, what happened at Auburn? So 3 girls came together to pray, and then what happened?
Well, it turned out to be Auburn Unite. And what happened there was, from those 3 girls praying, there were 5,000 people gathered for worship in the big auditorium there, the big basketball gym. And they spent 2 or 3 hours in worship and praise and prayer and sharing and all this stuff, and then went outside to the pond, had 200 kids baptized just in that one night. So that's sort of like, okay, God's on the move here. And where did it start? It started with a prayer triplet.
Exactly. And the young people, right? Like that's so often the revivals are the young people showing us up, us old people up, right? It's
Yeah,
oh, I love it. I love it. So let me restate it. So the prayer triplet is 3 Christians coming together to pray for 3 non-Christians and to do that 3 days a week.
Yes.
I
And
see why it's called a prayer triplet then. There's
yes,
three times. That's good.
about 333. And really, instead of thinking it as some kind of program, really you think of it as as sort of an organic movement. And when you think of it that way, even like what Kevin and I do with our friend Rick Eubanks, we're in a prayer triplet and we pray 3 times a week. Well, we have it set up so we're in different states, different places. So we pray Monday on a Zoom call. We pray Wednesday and Friday over text. And I just sent a text a few minutes ago and about that. And so there are all kinds of ways that this works itself out. The point is to really be praying and praying consistently 3 times a week for these 9 non-Christian friends that get prayed for. So that's the idea. And when you start multiplying that out and looking at that over a whole youth group of, let's say, 10 prayer triplets in one youth group, and you got 30 kids praying, and you got that by 3, I mean, how many kids do we have there who are being prayed for who need to know Jesus? Kevin can talk to that story.
Yeah, Kevin.
Maybe we should turn to him because this thing has worked, so to speak. When Jesus says it always works. But in Kevin's case here, it has worked where he has been.
Yeah, we were just
it.
like, I was just doing youth ministry, and when we implemented this, it wasn't, I just really got convicted when we prayed as a youth group. It was, to open youth group, to close it. It meant sit down, or we're transitioning. And so this gave us a strategy to empower students to pray for their friends. And what we saw was, in a youth group, there was more than one prayer triplet praying for the same people. So I'll go back to the 2 or 3 gather in Matthew 18, that we saw over the course of a year that every student, because we had a display on the wall of a prayer of a target where we kept track of who we were praying for. Every student who had more than one person praying for them to come to know Jesus accepted Jesus in that year. And it was so incredible. We got to see that and celebrate that. And we just saw students come alive, because they would meet at the school cafeteria at lunchtime to pray. They would meet on Wednesday night. They would meet at times that church wasn't scheduled to pray for their friends. And we can say, hey, go pray for your lost friends, but this gives them something very specific. Pray for 3 lost friends, and that they come to know Jesus. And so it became integrated in everything we did. So every outreach, every activity, everything we did, it was, I'm praying for my friends to come to know Jesus, and I can use X or this event or D Now or whatever as a tool so they can hear the gospel, and I can share the gospel. We can train them to share the gospel. So it just became integrated in what we did. And we just saw, just that one change, we saw God do so much more in that change in our youth ministry, and nothing else changed. It was just, we need to start praying for lost students, and God just showed out. So.
Yeah. And Jonny, just, I was an observer of that. I saw that for myself, and it was just beautiful to watch. And I know some of those kids who are in that youth group and know what the Lord's done in and through their lives over time. The thing I would say, stepping back from what Kevin and I both just said, is that prayer triplets is not just an isolated thing that follows the poll. Prayer triplets was initiated by me when we developed Jesus Focused Youth Ministry. And Jesus Focused Youth Ministry is a simple strategy to move us away from outside events that most of the time drive youth ministry to an inside John 15, abide in me kind of approach to youth ministry that starts with the inside out. And so in this simple strategy with Jesus in the center, then you moving out from that, there's 6 simple principles, and those principles are, the first one, go deeper with Christ. That's where you start. Abide in me, John 15. And then from there to pray with passion. So that's where see at the pole fits, but it's the prayer. That's where the prayer triplets fit in terms of the context of a ministry that wants to center on Jesus and make prayer a central emphasis. And then you move from there to building leaders, disciple students, penetrate the culture, create outreach opportunities, and all the other things that kind of flow out of that. But it all starts in here, abiding with Jesus, bearing fruit from that, and letting prayer and relationship with Jesus be the central driving force of all of it.
And
Wow.
I'm going to jump in. Like when this happened, here's what a student who came to know Jesus because of prayers, a student said, there is no greater love that I've ever felt to know that 3 of my friends have been praying for me to accept Jesus.
Ooh,
So,
all
like,
right,
you know,
hold on. Repeat that. Okay. So, because someone may have been tuning out. It may have been like, this is, I'm glued. Like, my heart's pounding. Like, I love this. Okay.
Yeah.
I need you to say that again, Kevin.
Yeah. So this student who came to know Jesus, she said, there's no greater love that I've ever felt in knowing that 3 of my friends have been praying for me. And it was like 6 months to a year that they prayed. And so we actually shared those stories of, hey, you have been prayed for 6 months to come to know Jesus. And we're going to celebrate not just that you come and you know Jesus, but we're going to celebrate the persistent prayer of your friends praying for you to make this decision. And so it was a win-win-win. Like, it was.
How awesome is that?
Yeah,
that's so great. And you know what? Like, and it's so good, because what I'm sitting here and thinking is, in some ways, I think there are people who are leading their ministries and feel like it kind of has lost its soul for the sake of programming. And it's things like this. This is very simple. It is no prep except maybe like an index card with 3 blanks, right? Like, you can just grab sticky notes and that would work. Like, so it's one of those things that as I'm listening to it, I'm just like, man, like, okay, I think I need to go do this. Like, I'm ready to just call up some students right now and do this, because this is what we need. We need students caring about the lost and doing the best thing they can do about that is praying. And the consistency and the chance to see God do something and to take a leap. I love it. So I'm so thankful for your testimonies on this. And sometimes Christianity is so simple, it's stupid, right? Like, it's so simple, and we're the stupid ones who make it harder.
So a couple of weeks ago, I preached at my church, very robust church. Won't go into the details about that, but at the end of it, it was on missions. And so my ending point was prayer triplets. And I had a card, and everybody in the congregation, over 3 services, everybody in the congregation got a little card. Will you pray for 3 people, gather up 2 other people with you, pray for 3 non-Christians, and pray 3 times a week? And the response was overwhelming. I mean, people they bought into it. They took the card home. And who knows what all the Lord's doing with that, but you just look at that and go, well, it's youth ministry, but it's also can be expanded to the whole church. And that's how spiritual awakenings take place.
I love it. And I tell you what, so for the person listening, this is an idea that they can run with. You don't need an external link to do this. You just need to stick with it, because sometimes we as leaders, we get excited about something and we do it for 3 weeks and then it drops off. So we need the stick-to-itness to do it. We need the ability to connect with others, whether students or parents, whoever, to stick with it. Here's my question. With our remaining time, you may or may not know Kevin Miles serves on staff here with NNYM, but he is also the USA side of Jesus Focused Youth Ministry. Did I get that right, Kevin?
Close enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. US.
All right.
Yeah.
As soon as I said it, I got real self-conscious. I was like, I hope that's right. But could you both speak to some other resources or places to learn more for the person listening who says, I want to do this, but I also want to stay tuned?
Well,
How would you direct them?
I'll start by saying, if you go to Campus Alliance website, you can get the article written by Kevin Miles that describes this in a beautiful way. So if you're saying, okay, I'm motivated, but I want to know a little bit more about how this works, you want to go there and read Kevin Miles's article. And then I'll let Kevin speak to the other side about what resources are available. And then I'll maybe say a word about that as well.
Yeah, we're trying to get these readily available for people just to use. So they've been housed on Jesus Focused Youth Ministry, but I was like, this is much bigger than one organization. So through Campus Alliance, we're just able to house resources there for Awesome Way to Pray. And I don't want to get ahead of our conversation, but there's some other resources coming too. But just to have those available, just to share with student pastors, with students, just to empower them to reach their friends. So definitely everyschool.com is a great resource. A lot of tools on there. Jesus Focused Youth Ministry. We have training. We have resources, student discipleship and leader training, and going all those things that Barry mentioned, going deeper with Christ and praying with passion, building leaders, discipling students, all those things. There's tons of resources out there, and we love to connect you with those. Yeah.
And going back to the prayer triplets, Kevin can tell the story if you have time, but this whole thing has been in existence for a long time. And my buddies here, Kevin and Rick and so forth, said, hey, Barry, why don't we just put those things out there in digital format? And so we rewrote them, recast them, put them in a digital form. And just a week or two ago, we finished those. And so we have an Awesome Way to Pray student journal, and we have an Awesome Way to Pray leader's guide. And both of those are like a 6-week emphasis for youth ministry on getting this thing going, creating energy around it, and getting people involved and engaged in it over that 6-week period of time, that then launches these prayer triplets that Kevin was talking about that are so ongoing. So that's what we've done to sort of ignite that fire and get it going in a church youth ministry context.
Love it. All right, let me say this. So in a debate, you get closing statement, right? But we're on the same team arguing the same thing. So this is not a debate. So I'm going to give you 30 seconds for a closing statement. We're going to go Barry, then Kevin. Barry, in your final moment here, what would you like the listener to walk away with, to know? What are your final thoughts?
So I come from an athletic background. And so I would just say, just do it. How's that for a short 30 seconds?
That's good.
Just do it. It's not that hard. Just go and do one, and for yourself and a couple of other people, and then introduce that and just kind of get it going and let it start. And these tools are there to help you do that. So there's no reason you have to flounder around. Just do it.
Love it. Love it. Kevin.
Well, I'll agree with all that. And I'll say I come from a non-athletic background, and just do it. I mean, it sounds so simple. Just start praying, empower your students to pray, and see what God happens. Jonny, what you said earlier, just keep praying. One of our students said, we need to push through it. We need to pray until something happens. So push. We got to keep praying. Don't give up. It may be a year. It may be several years before your friend comes to know Jesus, but God's working in their life and he can change them. And we just got to start praying.
How's that for a summary? Just do it. Push.
Hey,
there you go.
We got our episode title now. Yeah. That's all we need. Gentlemen, thank you. Exactly. And I believe this conversation is going to be challenging leaders to just do it and to pray until something happens. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
And we're back. And as promised, it is a worthwhile listen. And everyone who had the chance to hear that interview, I'm sure the wheels are turning here a little bit. As I'm listening to this, as I'm processing, I'm excited. I feel like this is something that I can do with my students, and I want to talk to my leaders about if we do this, like, let's really do it. Like, let's keep this in front of them and not make it a good idea that we don't follow through on, because yeah, we have so many good ideas we don't follow through, and then they never get to be used by the Lord in that capacity. So to reiterate, the idea of a prayer triplet is 3 Christians praying for 3 non-Christians, and to do this 3 times a week. So real simple stuff, but it is effective. In fact, Travis, have you seen this played out in your area?
Yeah, yesterday I was talking with a youth pastor who's like, he's like, man, I want to help my students share their faith with their friends, but they're just not ready for that. It's too big of a step for them. And I was just sharing the idea of, just challenge them, first of all, to begin by praying for their friends, right? That if you have students who are, maybe they're young in their faith, or maybe they're just timid or whatever, I mean, this is the perfect entry level idea, right? To get them where you want them to go. I have a friend who, he was a youth pastor. This is some years ago. He had a small church, very small youth group, about 5 kids. And he started doing prayer triplets as part of their weekly meeting. It was just a regular thing they did every week. They took time, I don't know, 5-10 minutes in their meeting to pray for friends that did not know Christ. And within several months, that group tripled. It went from 5 to 15. And it was the kids that they were praying for. And so the prayer led directly to kids getting involved and connected with the church, with the youth ministry, and by connection, they're hearing the gospel message. So,
Wow. Love it.
I mean, literally seen it work in a youth group. And I would encourage youth pastors, this is not just a nice idea. This is something I'd say incorporate it into your meetings, make it part of what you do on a weekly basis, because your students it gives them a practical way to express their faith and to think outside the 4 walls of the church. But then it gives them an opportunity. If you're praying for somebody, you're going to start to really care about what's going on with them, and you're going to start to really care about where they're going to spend eternity, and you're going to care about them having a relationship with Christ. So as they are praying those prayers, God is doing something in their hearts that's going to give them courage to reach out to that friend. And it might be inviting them to youth group. It might be sharing the gospel message. It might be just sharing their testimony with a friend. Or maybe it's just asking a friend, hey, I'm praying for you. How can I pray for you better? Maybe it's just that. But as they pray, God will do something powerful in their hearts.
I completely agree. And as you were saying that, I gotta check my heart a little bit when the person who said, man, our kids aren't ready to share their faith. There's a little, I gotta choose my words. No, I'm going for it. There's a little bit of an eye roll that goes on in me where it's like, it's kind of the idea of like, you hear people talk about we're not ready to be parents or we're not financially sound. It's like, well, you'll never be if that's the reason. Sometimes you just jump in and do it. And the only way to really be able to share your faith is to just do it.
Yeah.
But let me say this idea of starting with prayer, that seems like the best way to get kids ready to do it. So if you're praying for someone 3 days a week, do you really think that God's not going to bring chances for you to be bold and to start a conversation or to point things towards God? No, I mean, it's going to happen. So
it's going to happen. Yeah, absolutely.
So if you're listening to this, and listen, this can be the forerunner to evangelism. It's not just train them up. It's not just tell them how to share their testimony. It's continue to groom the heart. Because not only are you asking God for the lost people to be ready to receive, you're also grooming your own heart to be able to share, to care about it more, to keep it on your radar. So I think it's brilliant. I think it's so simple that it's so simple it's dumb, right? And
right. Yeah.
That's how so much of the gospel is. We have more leadership books and methods than ever, and yet the the initial church, just started spreading the gospel, and they didn't have anything. Anyway, that's a whole other podcast. I don't want to go down that, Travis. I'm sorry. That was a rabbit trail.
That's
But
all right.
bottom line, we need to have a movement of evangelism. And if prayer for the lost can be the thing that blazes the trail, I think we got a shot with this generation.
Absolutely. And I think that, praying in such a way that causes you to care about a person in genuine, tangible, authentic ways, I think that leads to better evangelism, right? Because evangelism that's just, I'm just trying to check off a box, or I'm just trying to do something somebody told me to do. If your heart's not in it, it's not going to be good, right? But if your heart is, hey, this person matters to me, I care about them, I love this person as a fellow human being, someone made in the image of God. I want them to know that God loves them. I mean, that's just evangelism that comes from such a better place, right? So yeah, prayer really, it makes you a better sharer of the gospel.
Love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully this inspired you like it inspired me and it inspired Travis. And we hope that you'll continue to really just dive in and evaluate what are the ways you're challenging your students to live out their faith, to not just show up and consume, to be able to care about the lost, and to make sure that we're doing everything we can to have teens have a radically changed life with Jesus, just something that transforms their world. If you have any ideas of topics, or you want to discuss this topic further, feel free to email us at podcast@nnym.org. Be sure to like and subscribe. It really does help the channel. And also think of this. If you have a youth pastor or a parachurch friend or someone in ministry and you think this would help them, share it along. Hopefully these words will encourage them as well. And as always, thank you for listening to the Free Refills podcast. We hope that you have an amazing, charged up day and that the Lord can do amazing things through you.